كنشي شايا يخستيني يايكي واساشتق خطتي وجين خستي يا تتسو أدات يخغختو شاات و ياي هت يدو ساقو أت Tlákw.aan wutien Tlákw.aan yeti Tlákw.aan kwati Tlákw. Adisa de toasaku adat yuch iwutani.
We siu in dasa shikalniki aware.
Oh. Yisaku again. Yisaku we Emmons adato a kaushahid. Siu chin. Telkatain hours go ade o a kawashhidiye. Kadushhidiye. Klinket. Yádi ko gwallisatin. Siu yegi aya. Ka. Oh, echasaku. Wasak siu kaunutchi. Ha. Gwalwe siu we dakuskiti. Aka awayata. Adat su adat yu kakakwatu. Wasay tuwuch.
Was as hasaku we nashade honey we silch in eich hu hoya was yaksha
Ka akawe na teach. Good cheese.
Unakadeit. Yáy.
Yeah, Wordlview. Dasa Tl'úk'x. Wordlview Yáay. Tl'úk'x. Weqa. Unakadeit khusatien. Skaidu.
Ganalchish achtoasagu Koowutlaax Shuhwanach Hashagun Kundaya Tunach Koowutlaax Hashkalnige Tl'úk'x ayayu hakusti Tl'úk'x Tl'úk'x Hana hidi hastujiwu. Yidadqau aya shiyedahin Tl'úk'x hastuhit yi L.Shadax. Oe shiyedahin ha at uwu kut waduagig. Ishandain ada tuati. Kunach katawu amsinigu at Gwalshe kledahin hastuna hidi gach Tl'úk'x tu. Une íchx yisakugi masa hastu na hid kut iagig.
Gwell yisaku we yukatangata se wahi. Ye awe wan kanins yudu sako at yadewe hit. Anakoe hatwasako hanaki hiti. Tl'úk'x atla'a. Wan kanins koa tl'úk'x iideka kwatishi yatatin. Latin ade yukakwatani ya. Yadu Tl'úk'x. Guksa Tl'úk'x. Wan kanins yadu Tl'úk'x adat Koowutlaax Tl'úk'x. Yaha nakahitki. Aka Tlagu at awe yachyati. Aka yatatsu ade awe yukakwatani ya. Yáay. You just wait ajishaguni teen. Guksa. Oops. Yadu hit se wahi. Ye awe. Ka yatatsu asai kutzati se wahi. Tl'úk'x ati sai awe khwaach. Yadu Tl'ésak kwahi. Ye awe hastu sai aya. Yadle kach inach. Aka we sai awe khwaach. Aka khwasaku. Yadu Tl'ésak kwahi. Ye awe achtuasagu yadeach Tl'úk'x. Tl'ésak kwahi. Tlingit nakahiti. Utusaku koa Tl'dzi. Wan kanins hajir yakuste. Shitahini awe yiskunatini. Asitawasagu hakusti nakutu adi. Akawe utusatinya hanakahitki wan kanins. Tl'úk'x adat Koowutlaax Tl'úk'x. Ye awa achtuati koa Chkudyede Goneye Kokachtusti. Akat ha nakahitki dat dach ha yasatak. Ye awa. Ade awa yukakachtutl'a adi ye hajishaguni tin. Ye awa yatatsu. Tl'úk'x. Aka itwasagu yata. Tl'úk'x hanakahitki. Dade ha yaguchsatak. Ye awa achtuati. Benachish.
Adusa na hidi duda su iatin at Yáay or verb
Kwasaku.
Yáay.
Adus.
Adusa dade
Hastu nakahitki. Dach yasatak.
Yáay. Adusa dach yasatak na hit
Nakahit.
nakahit. Oh, nakahit.
Nakahiti.
Nakahiti.
Ach.
Not sate.
We
Okay.
the cut we nach sati hits te kanatla ووشين يهسجي ونين جاق أقا أويل جلتكت وقو هس أو سكو داتا تي نخصايتي هستو هتكي يستينجي ويهتكا قني أيا كل كيغخلتسين أقا أوي أداي هسجك قني يستينجي ياتا يس أتينا خايتي يوخ أقا أداوي يجغختوني يأوي هقاطي قل يس نيقوت خطوتي أقايتي جاق قوة جلتكت وقو تلق هديكي هسبوتين يا يدت قوة يا تلوشين خاوستي جان قوة توسقو داي جتوني خوستين Tlákw.aan أخو هستو هدكي يتي يدت خوستين سو كيشخنا تلقى هستو ناك هدي خنا خويتلتسين يدت داي هستي وني وتأشوي خوستين سو ناك هدي قدتي يس جلتكت وقو هستو خنا قاو أقات قيسان يدو ساق ليت قاقنا خوا قل قد كيكوكو قاوي كدوش هت كسان قيسان قوا دي كينا ناكي هدي قدستيو
Was Koowutlaax zu. Adach tlach Yáay dat was unakadeit hate was Dukt'ootlʼ skalfnik dat Tleinach just Tleinach ka just Tleinach ka has kudziti just was L.Shadax was adach just has Tleinach has litzin has at city at Yéil am sinni adach Tl'úk'x Tl'úk'x has kuda shake dasa Yéil uni dasa Yéil am sinni Kagénach Yéil kudziti Kagénach adach Tl'úk'x ka eat has wudishi Tl'úk'x ka has Dukt'ootlʼ íchx too. Maya tieg has to yet client we do nok. Adach kwa slif adusa yes has client we nok. Just shamziku adusa has chagayati just has wunai yakawe utusaku adusa has mayatiek yechoji yes Lingi Christi yachiti kunachik owa gunalchish
قنلتشيش يك إخا أداتوي يتخطنتسو يا يدت تلياتا جاكوتا Yádu Yáay. Gwalli Sikuya Tatsu. Yáta. Oops. Yáta. Was Chayago Ging Chashugo like Enach Kakwashihi. Yáta. Chashugo ya. Gwal Yáta. Yáta Tsakutzati. Tuduk'aan. On Palinza Dato Yitahotan. Yáta Asai Kutzati. Tl'úk'x. Koowutlaax Sai Aya Tl'úk'x. Ya Awach Kant Uwanuk Kant Tuyeti Tl'úk'x. Ya Awach Wankanin Zachet Ki Hastu Inirachotani Tasakaki U Kantin Kano Adati Tachotank Konachoe Tlitsini at Gwash Konachoe Kant Honuk Dukt'ootlʼ du Yes Adatawe Yutachotank Kach Konachoe Kakwa Akasteginachoe Kakasani Ya Kla du Ish Ye Awe du íchx has du in Kawanigan Tawasakan Etuyeti Ye Awe Atlen Gao Atinecheti Dasa ye kakine ada Dasa ye kakisane ada Aka Kerkan Tinach Tuasaku Wait datsu Ya ach Khuni Yupixati Tlákw hin Hoach du Sheo Yao Sakayan Ye a Yawas Kayan Gwalchant Yanuk Helwasa Oti Cajun Winnets Khanach Akate Hooch Keshitwashku Khan Iguxati Ye a Wadati Takhwatan Gulchish Adisatsu Tsukake Anya Nachtla
Tl'úk'x. Dukt'ootlʼ Gáasʼ I dot ach tuasugwch ach Koowutlaax. Quat I Edach we Dukt'ootlʼ ach a Gáasʼ Udo Sak quat I Edach Awatla Dukanach with Yádi Awe Hini Tl'úk'x. Gwell Emmons to a Kashachit a dot Yáay dat you do a sock what a shutch ka would do a shutch we say ati it hini Dukt'ootlʼ with the shoot ka Chúisú deach cháis in gwalli chúisú deach ach du Yáay a Gáasʼ ach Tl'úk'x chúisú deach cháis in sa Héil a tíns a tuadach which agu Koowutlaax Dukt'ootlʼ ka hashagun which Yáay ach tindatan Yáay dat ach tindatan Yáay dat we Dukt'ootlʼ dat
يك كل شيش كل وياتا تسو أدي كل ياتا كذا يادو قدو خشت و
Chish
عاشتين وانقنينز تاقاسا هستي تواوسكو ان جان والكيوي يا وساعات هيندي ايا او قودن اقا اتخ خلخوي اديخ هستو دوكيه يتي هستو تواسكو هس او خشتي اقا اوي قل ديخ اقتتي قتندتاني او ادات يا ساعتي هندي يقودي التكت و قاشي التكت يهدي قاتا اتتود اقاوي تواسكو قل كختي اوي يا اتيخ كيكو جاكو ديسا هس قخت خشت يا هستو دوك قنخوي هستو تواسكو ان هستو دوك تسين اقا اوي ياتا اوي يهساو سنين يا اوي قلتس spanking قاطلت قاخنخ يا آن ايا كككي خيش يا اوي قا يا اخ اغيتكي شتو هسال تو ويشكالنيك دكتوك اتلين قو اوي اداتيو هسخي وطاننس واسا اتونيوخ هخوسكو قوخسا ويدو قوشياتا هجشكوني قاق قوشيلتا Guggen Klingetani Yádi Atlein sag Kuzati Klingetani Ka Yádi Chutsnu Yádi She Tl'úk'x Tlákw Ya Art Klein Tan you do a sag we de Guksa we Yáay wutien ya Tlákw.aan you do a sag ya aqa Tlákw de Koowutlaax ya Koowutlaax idat Tl'úk'x ani aya qaya de kina ani awa Yáay wutien hekhasaku Guksa Dukt'ootlʼ well Yáay haswutien Tl'úk'x ya Koowutlaax kwa ach au Tl'úk'x kahwan íchx Tl'úk'x chanakawanik Yaduk satien Dukak hastin ataswukuch Hechwasaku Guksa íchx kachawe yak yakdachawe haswukut akade Dukak hastu inakawanik yak awe Dukt'ootlʼ Wushdach awa setwe tan claim Eka at awe Shkalnik ayak eka wune yank. Chanakawani kwa kats sewa kak guchsa we íchx Dukt'ootlʼ. Yw'n cachwni kwa Tl'úk'x awa kwa akaye ewutien. De awa.
Just yeah, hit ye kucha'u. Tl'úk'x yagi Dukt'ootlʼ chwasitin. Tl'úk'x yagi unakadeit chwasitin. Just tl'úk'x yake ka gi ye chatna teach adach. Iskugi das kakhodatani. Just we unakadeit chwasitin Tl'úk'x yagi yake ka ye chatna teach. Isukugi?
Ah, yake. Adatawa yutachwatang kliatke. Yatatsuach to us go datu at Koowutlaax. Wasa atpune wega. Wash chak away. Yáay wutien Tl'úk'x has to hitki, has to naka hitki. Tlákw.aan. Konachwelitsin. Koninach saku Yáay wutien isikuge. Gwash 1860. Koninach Yáay wutien Tlákw.aan. Yéil. Yáay that was Tlákw.aan. Tl'úk'x ka kijinjin kat ku akreati. Chak was jin kat 1,000 ku Yáay wutien. She at the hain, has she at the hain, you. Wega, Tl'úk'x wutien, nikutlein. Achoe, klingit, shawutaha, wega. Yáay wutien koa, we Emmons, we do a saga. Do Yáay yikdewe ate wukruch. Ate awa hasa kaushikitye du sai. Gwash du sai koa. Katratsewa kak. Tl'úk'x kat. A katratse kak nuj du sai. Koowutlaax. Gwash ye awa ach. Koowutlaax. Ja ach kik koowutlaax adat. Eka ashakuko has saku. Adatawe yejitunean. We kleinach kao adata kaush hiden. Tl'úk'x yudu saku. Yisikuge Dukt'ootlʼ sai Tl'úk'x. Louis Shotridge aya Tl'úk'x inach. Adatawe ya ach íchx has awe kagwanta. Najuek Adena dat away Yukwatan. Kashis Ikwa at away. Yakwa Hasakawish Hiti. Pen Museum you do a sock. Away Yeju Winayan Koa. Ya Kainaha Hashagu. Singit you Katangi Kanahoy Awashkugan. Kadena Kawash Heat, we Kuku Kachwan Kanins. Hayu Katangi. Ye walk she Ikapasane do ye jene. Gusa. That's right there. Yátayach ade a Kawash Hitia. Ya Singit you Katangi. Okay. Our Konahoy, our Saku Hayu Katangi. Gwash Yádi Yawuch. Koowutlaax, Tl'úk'x, Yawuch, Kudach, Yawuch. Konahoy a cow shahid. Ade away koa Yáay dat chakuti de away. Katu shahid away hayu katangi. The shakud zikoa do yejni. Klesh ikowat aya de kosti. Gwash nasjankat Caucasian away aka wuna. Shidzi koa. Gwashi satin shed the haini at aya achayati. Tlákw, Koowutlaax, Tl'úk'x, Gáasʼ, Gúdas, Nachin, shed the haini a kajiye wutian. Wutusaku at Eshtuhuni at Tl'úk'x. Tl'úk'x hatuasaku kajiye tiyi. John Koa, Hachuke Wutian has to Toasaku, Hasawa Aka Museum, Artland Museum has to Toasaku, Ayike Wutian, Tlinket Yáay. Kone away, Hasawa Ya Tl'úk'x, Shia Dehini at Pen Museum, Ayide Awa Awati. Helches Hukoa. We Kleinach Desai away Sheldon Jackson. Hutsa Atlan away. Our shot Yaha ani dach ka Princeton Museum ade. Chidzi at Kashach Tawa Ashku Yaha at Uhu. Hatchinak aya has wadu shati. Wudu shati. One Kanins Kaya Wahikan. Khosatin cages at Zak Sky de Uwasa.
Da Tlákw.aan da say Tl'úk'x íchx at museum aya da say Tl'úk'x Hadaya Haganech Yayawaka Tlákw.aan ushku ka Ayanda Shani Yayawaka Gáasʼ too, but Uncle Tlákw.aan too da say Tl'úk'x ge.
Sorry.
Kune da say Tl'úk'x.
Ashukwa Akach. We echt Jishaguni. We that to Kashas Ikwa at Kanahoyach to us a good thing get down a Kaye tea over has to eye. Chalk, Kanach to chalk away. Was just the cut rate thing get the way has to wunawu íchx hastu da itewe kaudu skunni. Ye awe Tlákw. Ja, idet ko acho a witlat gitai kwa kata kate tu ye haswutien. Tlákw a just the katwe ku ach kaudu tsagang. Dasa du hastu ai kwal kudas wal dasa ye has a uwan kakiki. Kwal wait atsu ach kawasgani. Acho a hasu yetki gwell hasu shet hasu chuch hasu jit hasati chaye gugenki a hasu ai. We at just nach sati a kelke nach ka awa wu hain wuchin hasawa hain we nach sati a. We icht ko a just hasawe yet atki kak e haswutien ichwaji. Kijk de hino e chwysatin gaisa an. Ja as a de kawa a ye. Jega gingi kinde a ka kladen a ka kinde. A de away kladeni at gosh kay dushu kakus. A ka away wan kanin za kaye haswutien. Wichaguta as away. Ya duwa kich. Aka ada awe hasawa khut has outla yech ya ateni yacheti a atuta we icht khal de kat du jishaguni achawe yech kuchsati a iti a icht has du ide du ina ya ye jikwaneyen ye awe has awsaku ko a we Tlákw anthropologist, historian, adasa, yis kunatini. Chikle aya has awsakua, dasa atuye wutien, aka has kushinuch. Stakatat has awa tau. Ajoya, uchke wutien, yaltakat kakusti. Ka yisatin, dasa yisatin. Gwell museum tut icht jishaguni. Yewe achten de tani wudu a tau. Kega wudu a tau. Wasa etkuk bonea yi detko a. Wikega icht. Kalkaden kus tien ya yi det. Gwell tsu ye kukwas ti ko a jishaguna a tinachas yati. Gwell kadki ka ach tuasaku Tlákw. Wutusaku ach a wikadki kuke wutien. Yidete ko Tl'úk'x has a tau. Has a tauch. Tlidzi at gwell at awe tl'gdain wutusaku ka tl'hakau dudug. Ya yidat. Wujin ko a gwell kagach hakagach dudug. Gwell icht tl'idzini ten kakushta. Chish Johan. Hayejene datawe Dukt'ootl'at was let hayu katangi tin. English yu katangi tin. Ingenen yu katangi. Was just ye kat let hayu katangi ka Norwegian kone yu kita. Tl'úk'x. Chish. Thoughts and reflections. It's a good solid 40 minutes.
It's hard work, eh? Like even to listen and then try to say something, and I know nobody can understand what I'm trying to say, and and I'm just trying to fix it up. Anyways, but I figure that's the only way is jump in and go for it. So, but it is tiring. I think, yeah. So. Yeah.
yeah, it's a big step from like little chunks here, little chunks there to say, okay, go. Yeah. So I do believe, yeah, it's like when Raven looked out and saw that volcano, someone's gonna have to go get that fire. So someone had to go get it. And the reality is there's not very many places left where Tlingit just exists, and so we create it. Um, but yeah, that's why that we have these times. We have a lot that we talk about before, and then there's the event, and then this is our reflection time. So great job. Yishkagu. Like Skydo.
say well up.
Oh,
Tl'úk'x, Yáay, Ch'éqa, Tl'úk'x. Yeah, I think everyone did awesome. I don't know why, but immersion always like makes my heart beat really fast. But because I realized I'm like you can practice I just by practicing like what I was going to say today, like my scripted part, I was able to understand so much more of what everyone else said because we were talking about somewhat similar subjects, which I thought was cool. Because for this assignment I try to pick verbs I don't know that often, like the house is falling down, and stuff like that. And so I thought that was really cool to hear. And then I'm able to, I think, respond a lot better when you say something, because I can tell like you use the same verb of talking about it, which is cool. So I'm like, things are starting to connect a little bit, but I feel like sometimes when I just try to like say things, like I don't fully have things in the right place. But it sounds like for the most part, it's like kind of understood because you respond to it. So,
yeah.
but I don't know if you're just picking up the verb
Yeah,
or if it makes
my
sense.
suggestion is probably to say conversation instead of immersion, just because that word has become
Oh
so,
yeah.
it's such a
Oh,
heavy word now. Like it feels like we have to, because I just noticed it a few years ago. Like, we're like, hey, we're gonna do this immersion thing. And people are like, I'm not ready for that. Yeah, it's like, oh well, what if we just said conversation? And we're doing the same thing. We're just calling it something different, just to lessen the fears, I guess. Yeah, I agree. Great work, everybody. Ishkaku.
Iwu said that he would say things, but nobody would understand what he was saying. Tlákw. I understand a lot more of what other people say than I used to. It used to be, Panay, I could understand you fairly well and anyone else not really at all. And I think that's because you talk more than anyone else. For good reason. But now it's getting easier to understand what people are saying, even when their pronunciation isn't perfect. And I know mine isn't perfect.
Yeah,
And
thanks, Tish. Yeah, and so Chipu, you're doing amazing stuff, and so keep going. It's wonderful.
Sheesh, Katichon. I wasn't saying, I wasn't dumping on anybody out there. I was dumping on myself, saying I was having such trouble trying to get things together for, yeah. But anyways, it's all, just keep trying, I guess. Yeah, sheesh.
I guess you could say Chush kach kauchtzecha ach kachitli, as dumping my troubles on myself. Other thoughts, reflections, questions? Questions are always okay to ask, and thinking about what's going to help for next time.
I was under the impression that there was a tape we were to listen to, but I didn't find a link to it.
Oh, it was Dukt'ootlʼ. I think it was that story. But I think it was, I had put it, it's on our class page, but it's a few classes down. I probably should have refreshed it. So, and I think the text of that story is also there. And so I think to help, maybe we'll have our, well, we're going to try and wrap the conversation on this particular subject area. So for Thursday, find out as much as you can about probably two things. The eclipse, well, I guess three things. The eclipse, the map, and the selling of the whale house. The eclipse is from, I think, 1869 as well. The map is also, I think, 1869. And then the selling of it was probably 1980s or 90s, something like that. So we got two more old things and one more sort of newer thing. And we're going to have some things to say about that. So again, we'll kind of stick to this format. If you didn't have a chance to talk very much this evening, I encourage you to just be one of the ones who starts us off, even if you just have a couple of things to say. Because as the other thing is like, how do I put my thoughts into Tlingit? Like that's a huge, like I cannot overstate what a huge leap that is to go from like, I have opinions and thoughts on this thing, to like putting that into Tlingit is one of the biggest steps that you can take. I think a lot of people who study languages sort of theorize that giving your opinion and your thoughts and your predictions is some of the highest level of language stuff that you can do, because it's not memorization anymore. It's really sort of saying like, I think it was a bad idea to sell the, whatever. Like if you wanted to come out and say that, like for example, some of the things I was saying about Louis Shotridge is that's very, very complicated. Like you can say there's hundreds of things we can go look at in museums because of what he did and what other people did in that era. But then you can also say, like if you go to the Penn Museum, they have more than any single Tlingit community does of Tlingit objects. And so that's a complicated scenario. Probably one of the most complicated things that I'd ever thought about was, and I gotta be careful because it's my father's people, my opposites, but apparently he walked into a house and took something from it, and then wrote in his journal, the Koowutlaax used to be so strong. No one could take anything from them. And I just walked in and took this from their house. And he was Koowutlaax. And so that's very complicated. And but I think it really challenges us because we might have a lot of things to say and to think about. But if you're feeling frustrated because you don't know how to say those things, make sure you can literally write out your sentences in English and we can work on translating them together too. Like we could do some of that work, a little bit more of the sort of like, we're all going to be at different stages of our learning and language use, but we have lots of time. Our single obligation here is to just talk to each other about stuff. That is all we have to do. And then that, I think, continues to unlock things. Other thoughts or questions?
How might I say I have a beard or I have a wart? Like how do you? It's not in our hands, right?
No, you'd say like you could say. I guess I would say Yáy. You could say yabu, but I would just say Yáy. I would say Yáy do yabu. If I can say they have a beard, there's a beard on their face.
Okay.
Because jiwu is, because I know we use jiwu a lot because English uses that. They'll say like, they have blue eyes, but you would say their eyes are blue. And so, or they have long hair. In Tlingit, you would say their hair is long. Or you say there's a beard on their face.
Okay.
Yeah, so you would just say or you could say, and it depends, like, because one time when I first started thinking about this stuff, if you know Herman Davis Tl'úk'x, he has gone through various phases of hair length and beard length. One time he had a giant, big old beard. And I said, how would I say your beard is wonderful? And he said, Yádi. And so that's, Yáay is the beard and Yáay is the mustache. So usually you say something about it, or you could say, it exists. I guess you could say that. But same thing, like, because when we get into like, I have 3 children, I would usually say, my children are 3 people, because I don't have them. But English uses, and these are some things, the more we use Tlingit, we'll find a whole bunch of these things where it's like, English likes to talk about it that way. There's nothing wrong with that. But for Tlingit, it's not always going to be to have something. Good question.
On that note, I have Kay, she's Tlingit Day book that she worked on with children of the Tlákw', and it's super funny because she says she even has like specific things for like your nose hairs and your ear hairs and like yeah, so it's cool because it's like all separated and everything. But she would say, if you were to say my beard was long, Yáay Yahuti. So it's not even actually using the jiwu. She's just saying Yahuti.
Yeah, and so Kutliyat, like you could even say, it's like it's this long, I guess is what it's saying. So you could also say Tliyataway Achyatizai. And so that, like, sometimes we'll have multiple ways of saying the same thing. Okay. Anything else, folks? Thoughts, questions, things that what's going to help you? What's the Tlingit version of like the tumbleweeds going across the thing? There's got to be a Tlingit, or the cricket chirping. I guess like a raven calling or something. That's all good. It's all good. So there's some really neat things to think about, and as we sort of wrap this part of the conversation, and then also think about by Thursday, I'll have an idea, and so. But we're going to start to get to a point where I'm going to ask someone to sort of take the lead on helping us get ready for the conversation. So that what that would mean is I would let you know on a Tuesday, and then on Thursday, you would give us our Hajishaguni, right? So there's lots of tools. So today I was using the verb dictionary while I was talking, and I was using the verb database while I was talking. But in terms of, if you look at how this set of conversations was guided, it was a picture of the whale house. It was stories about the whale house, these articles. And so think about a topic that you can sort of present to us and give us some things to look at so we can read them, look at them, spend the weekend getting our conversation ready. And when we do this, it's a bit of a forced conversation. And I think you have to start that way, right? And so if you can just get started and just start sort of saying stuff, then it's going to help. But then also, you're not alone. Like, you can reach out through email, you can use the Discord link, and you can say, like, how would I say this? How would I say this thing? And we can collaborate on your sentences, because it's still your thoughts. But we're all here to work together and to help put your thoughts into Tlingit, which is, it's a huge step. It's a huge, huge step to take. But I remember one time when we started doing conversations, right? And we would say, oh, we're going to go for an hour. And we would just look at the clock and and be like, it's only been 7 minutes, right? And so But then the more we did that, the more we found that we were able to switch over into Tlingit and just use it as a language of communication, which that's what we're here for. So. Okay. It's been exciting to talk about this stuff. I am really interested in all of the convergence of all of these things. And so I'll do a bit of research on my end to make sure I've got some names of people that are very important to this. Tl'úk'x, I always forget, I think it's like a wide tail, or it might be a moldy tail when you look at that name. And Shotridge, I think, comes from L.Shadax, won't be clubbed on the head. And then Koowutlaax. I think that's what Dukt'ootlʼ told me for that name, that they always write as like Tl'úk'x or something like that. So the other thing is like making sure we're getting these names. But just to sort of let you know, Emmons came there. He saw the whale house and all this wonderful stuff that was in Tlákw.aan. He asked, I think, Koowutlaax if they could draw a map of the area. And he had several wives and they all went up trading into these different areas. So Dalton Post is going to be something we can talk about, the migration up between Tlákw.aan and these various communities we could talk about as we sort of wrap this part of our conversation. But he ended up trading a piece of his boat for this map that the wives of Koowutlaax, they made this incredible map that was very accurate. It was probably the first map that was drawn by Tlingit people that is known. And so while they were doing this trade, though, I think there was an eclipse. And there was a very narrow band, and it went across Tlákw.aan. And so he was there, and he saw it. Tlingit people were there, and they saw it. A lot of people were scared of the eclipse back then. They just thought you would turn to stone. So Nora has a poem about her great uncle who got dressed up real fancy and stood on a rock and was like, if I'm going to get turned to stone, I'm going to look good. And then he sat there and waited, and he never got turned to stone. And so it's like a fun story that sort of was passed down in her family, but is related to this sort of incident. And then, Emmons also wrote down a lot of stuff about Tlingit peoples. He wasn't always super, the racism was just sort of a flavor of the day. And I think it was a less harmful racism than the racism you saw in the like boarding school era. But when you read his stuff, he calls Tlingit people primitive, and he's got a number of different things, but that's just how people, that was just the language of the day, was that version of supremacy. And so I know that is a difficult thing sometimes to read, especially when you think about how complex the Tlingit language is. Because I remember I thought, I bet you he spoke Tlingit, but then I read some of his work, I was like, no, he probably didn't. Or else he would have been a little bit more at Yáay. So Dukt'ootlʼ, we've got the 4 stories that we sort of talked about, a whole bunch of other stuff, and then the selling of the things and the tribal court intervention. Dukt'ootlʼ was part of that. He was there, and he was on the winning side in terms of making sure that stuff made it back to Tlákw.aan. Lots to talk about. Bring your questions. We'll start with questions. If you want any help crafting your sentences before class, I have no problem helping you out. And if you just want to read from your script, then that's something. But just hearing everybody's voices does really help, because it just makes it more of a all-together type of thing. But if you're mostly watching, it's okay for now. It's totally okay, because you're part of this thing. You're here, and the talking will come. Okay. Kunchishon, Yigo ay Juan, Kanachwe, Yáy, Yachana, Ekecha.
Latish.
Latish, Siagan.
Sheesh.
and sheesh.
Alright.
Cheese.